So the next thing we're going to do is our pasta salad with mixed vegetables. I like this one. This one has a lot of flavor to it. It imparts a lot of flavor into what you're doing with it. It's a different take on a pasta salad. It's a chunky pasta salad. It is something that's got bell peppers, it's got garlic, it's got mushrooms, unsalted diced tomatoes. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, good luck. They are hard to find. I did find some low sodium tomatoes down there, but all of your canned stuff, if you want completely unsalted, you're going to have to cut them yourself. Or like I do, I can tomatoes, so I can them without salt now, so you can do that. But if you go down here on the shelf and just get a can of tomatoes off the shelf, it's going to have sodium. The main thing about cooking sodium is watching what you're using. Because some of the sneakiest things will have sodium in it, and you will not believe some of the things. I mean, really, if you'd ever thought about it, how many people realize bread had a lot of sodium in it? I never did either for a long time. Bread is loaded. And as a kid, I lived on fluffernutter sandwiches. How many people know what a fluffernutter sandwich is? Nobody knows. Peanut butter and marshmallow fluff between white bread. Now that was, to me, that was, boy, you talk about a kid that was bouncing off the walls all the time. And I was. But the bread that you eat that we know of white bread or even wheat bread or anything that's in the loaf on the shelf over there, most of it, as a general rule, is high in sodium. And that's because it's a preservative. You think about what salt was used for 100 years ago. We didn't have country ham because it tastes so good. We had country ham because that was the only way we had to preserve things. Salted fish. How many people have ever heard of salted cod? You can get, anybody ever tried it? You look like you've tried it. Yeah, you reconstitute it in water. It's a dry piece of leathery fish, and you reconstitute it in water, and the salt just rises to the top of the water, and you can never get all that salt. That's why I loved it so much. It was just so salty, and it was so good. But salt was used as a preservative. We're at the point now we're cooking for flavor. Why do you think McDonald's loads their French fries down with salt? Because people like it. Are they trying to preserve the French fries? No, I don't think so. It's for flavor. And what do? You get salt on your fingers, and what do? You lick it. If you're like me, you used to take a salt shaker and pour it in the plate and then lick it up out of the plate because I love the flavor of salt. But we're going to cook today, like I said, started with our fish, and we're going to find out that we don't have to have all of that. I've boiled and cooked some pasta here. This is a whole wheat pasta. It is really good. It's the spiral rotini pasta. This is whole wheat. Okay. How many people has ever cooked with whole wheat pasta? It is really good. You cannot tell the difference in the flavor to me. It's really good, and I love it. And what I've done is I've cooked this till it's al dente, meaning it's still got a little bounce to it. It's not mush. And that means when you start adding your other ingredients and you chill this, and we are at the very end, we're going to put this in the refrigerator. It needs to sit for an hour, so you're not going to get to sample any of this. No, I'm kidding. I made them one ahead of time. But you cook it till it'll hold together. You don't want it falling apart on everything, so you want to give it some body. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take, after we cook this, we're going to take a little bit of olive oil and we're going to sprinkle over it. That's not for flavor necessarily. It does impart a little bit of flavor to it. It is to keep your pasta from sticking. You put it on, it's while it's hot, and you can see this does not stick. It's just as separated as can be there. So any pasta that you ever cook, you put water, put a little olive oil in the water. It helps it from sticking in there. Then you get it out, cool it down. While it's still hot, though, go ahead and put your olive oil on there. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take about a quarter cup of low-sodium chicken broth. And I've got this in our pan already. I started smelling something cooking, didn't realize I had it on that high. So I'm glad that was our next recipe. But we're going to take about a quarter cup of it. We're going to turn your oven on to about medium. And then we're going to add our vegetables. We're going to add garlic, onions, and tomatoes to begin with. How many people have a very favorite pasta recipe? Pasta salad. Anybody? Nobody? Does anybody like pasta salad? Do I need to start this? Okay. I thought nobody likes it. They ain't no need in doing it, is they? Okay. All right. We're going to add a little bit of garlic. We're going to add our onions. I've already pre-diced these. This is just a straight yellow onion. We're going to add about 2 medium onions to this. It's not quite all I've got in here. And we'll leave a little bit. We can always add more, but it's really hard to take some out if you've got too much in there. And I'm going to add just a hair more of our chicken broth, though. I think we've cooked away some of it. And with your skillet being hot, adding this room temperature chicken broth in here, it's not going to be a problem getting it heated up. Now, if this had been in the refrigerator and your skillet was cold, it would take a little bit longer. So you're going to get your garlic incorporated in there really good. At this point, if I was cooking regular, not low sodium, what would I do? I'd reach over and grab me a pinch of salt and I'd sprinkle it in there to help our onions to cook down a little bit better. But I'm going to go ahead and just add a little bit of pepper. You cook, in my house, we cook in layers. Does that make sense? If you add a little bit of flavoring to each one, at the end, it's seasoned just right. If you season something at the very end, you've got to keep on seasoning, keep on seasoning, keep on seasoning until you get it to where you want it. So we've got our garlic and we've got our onions in there. And then the next thing that we're going to add is our pasta, or excuse me, is our tomatoes. I'm going to turn this up just a hair. We're going to add our tomatoes in here. Now this is a 28-ounce can of tomatoes with the juice. Do not drain the juice off because that's going to give you part of your cooking liquid and everything there. Okay. Just get it until everything's really coated with the tomatoes. We're going to jack our stove up a little bit more. And what we're going to do is while this is cooking, we're going to go on to our corn salad, because this is going to take a minute to come up to temperature before we add our other vegetables in. Cooking this reminded me of being a kid and eating macaroni and tomatoes. That was, oh, I love them. I will not eat a raw tomato. You can put a raw tomato in front of me and I cannot stand the taste of a raw tomato, but macaroni and tomatoes were a staple in my home. Soup beans, you were talking about soup beans earlier, and macaroni and tomatoes, and they were all loaded with salt. So okay, we're going to prove today that you don't have to do that. So we're going to put this on here and we're going to let it simmer just a little bit. You all can see what that looks like. And basically what we want to come to is we want to come to the point, just to the point where our onions have started getting just a little bit translucent on us. So let's go on to the corn salad while that's taking hold right there. And the great thing about cooking low sodium is if you're the cook, you don't have to tell anybody that you were cooking low sodium. Did I cook it? No, ma'am. No, ma'am. When you get the frozen corn in our freezer section, it is already cooked. It's been cooked and blanched and fast frozen, so there's no need in cooking it. If you can, I guess if you really, really wanted to, I guess you could. But what you're going to have to do there then is you're going to have to add ice or something and cold water and to cool it back down. And by then your corn is going to be so mushy that it's not going to hold up to what you're wanting to do with that. So we'll go back to our fish here really quickly. Make sure. I'm going to actually turn our oven off. And I'm going to let it sit there with the door cracked just a little bit. And let it finish while we're here. And that way we'll be sure we don't burn anything. It's right on the verge of being done. So I've turned our heat back up to about midpoint. And I'm just going to go in and I'm going to add the rest of my vegetables. I'm going to add my peppers. I'm going to add my mushrooms. Now these mushrooms have been cleaned, but they have not been washed. The difference is I did not use any water. Took a paper towel and shook them really good. Shook any loose particles that might have been in there out. Mushrooms are like sponges. If you use water on them, you're going to be eating water because it's going to soak up the water into your mushroom. I'm going to add a little bit of zucchini. Now in your recipe, the zucchini is called for shredded, okay? And that's really good. I like a crunch when I eat. So I've sliced mine. We're going to add those. And then we're just going to mix them up really good. We've already got our onions. And that's starting to smell really good now. We're going to cook this about 5 minutes, okay? And then after we cook this for about 5 minutes and get them just to the point that they're good and tender, we're going to take them out of our skillet and we're going to mix it in with our pasta. And then we're going to add our seasoning and everything in there. But what I'm going to do before I put it in our pasta, I'm going to go ahead and season this in the dish because we was talking earlier about cooking in layers and having flavor. So now we're seasoning our vegetables. We did our tomatoes and our We did our tomatoes and our onions and our garlic to begin with, and then we're going to use this for our vegetables. That pepper has got me wanting to sneeze right now, so if I step around the corner here in about 2 seconds, you know what I'm doing. Oh, Lordy. So we're going to let that sit, and while we let that sit, I am going to pray that I have an oven mitt or something here, because you know me, I would never forget anything like that. See, I told you I had one. And we're going to pull our fish out. Okay, you see? Can you see it up there? It's turned really good and white. It's starting to brown a little bit on top. What I'm going to do, I just wanted you to see this. I'm going to put it back in the oven and leave it just a little bit more so it can get a little bit more brown on top. Just you don't want it cooked till it's dry, but you can see there's a lot of, with the butter and the lemon juice, there's a lot of moisture in that pan, so your fish is not going to dry out unless you cook it like jerky or something. And we're going to leave that in there. The oven is off, but there's still a lot of residual heat in there, so we'll be able to do that and get a little bit more brown on that. With everybody that's here, not 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. We should about get a whole piece a person. We'll go home and tell them you eat supper really good tonight, and others will be jealous, won't they? Okay, so we've let this sit here and cook for about 5 minutes. The vegetables are not cooked to mush, but they still have a little bit of bounce in them, a little bit of firm texture to them. And we're going to just take this and we're going to add this right to our pasta. And we're going to take this back here and put it in the sink. And the person that washes dishes after the show tonight gets to take every of the leftovers home with them. No takers. Okay. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the gifts that God has given us, and that's our hands to mix this with. Be very careful. It is warm, but you got that good cool pasta in there too. And we're just going to mix the flavors up really good here. It's a really pretty salad. There's only one way that I could ever think that you could make it a little bit prettier, and that's to use regular pasta, and then it wouldn't be quite as healthy, would it? With the white and everything. It calls for green bell peppers in a lot of the recipes and stuff. I like using color, just like what we was talking about with the fish. So you got all this mixed up together. And then the very last thing that we're going to do is what? Season it just a little bit more. Let's see here. We'll use a little bit of pepper. And we're going to use a little bit of basil and a little bit of oregano. Now we're on the basil and the oregano that we're going to use on the very end is dried. So like I said before, don't use quite as much of it as you would if it was fresh. If you want to use fresh and you've got fresh to use, by all means, use it. In a big salad like this though, this gets incorporated a little bit better because it can get in to the nooks and the crannies of the pasta. How many people have ever thought about your nooks and crannies of your pasta? Anybody? Okay. You have? Okay. And this looks like a lot that I'm putting on here, but we put an awful lot of pasta and other things in there too. So leave it to Peggy to think about the nooks and crannies of her pastas, I'll tell you. And then we're adding a little bit of basil. And that's it. We're just going to stir it up just a little bit as I knock the spoon off of there. Okay. You can see that the tomato juice has helped us quite a bit. Down in the bottom of the bowl there, you can, well, you can't, but it's there, trust me. You can't see it. But that tomato juice is also imparting flavor to your pasta. How many people have ever, when you make spaghetti, everybody likes spaghetti? Everybody makes spaghetti? How many people have ever thought about taking your dry spaghetti and cooking it in your pasta sauce? Anybody ever done that? I did it the other day, and it was wonderful. I thought you got all that moisture there. You're cooking the sauce. Why use plain old water? You got all that tomato sauce in there. I made a homemade spaghetti sauce. I put it all in there, and I add just a little bit extra moisture to my sauce, and I put the noodles in there, and I cooked those noodles in that spaghetti sauce, and they give those noodles such a good flavor. You know how you get spaghetti the next day after you've mixed everything together, and it's always better the second day. That's what it kind of reminds you of a little bit. So you might want to try that sometime. A lot of what? Well, I rinsed it all off and everything before I did it, but it didn't, no. It was really good. So, it might had some more starch, but it didn't really affect it in any way. I had never tried it. I just thought, man, I'm going to try this. But anytime I ever cook pasta, even like this, I rinse it really good. And that gets rid of a lot of your starch, because a lot of your starch is on the outside of the pasta and everything. So if you'll rinse it really good, it'll get rid of part of it too. But you'll never get rid of all of it. Just like a potato, when you're draining potatoes, you always see that starch in the bottom of the sink or in the bottom of your bowl where you've cleaned them at. So, any questions about anything we've done tonight? In the recipe, you're looking in this one right here, you're looking at about 8 to 10 servings. We recommend here, if you're doing servings for a side like pastas or corn salads or anything like that, potato salad, it's 4-ounce serving. So I'll give you a little formula here that might help you out. If you're trying to cook for 20 people, I'll tell you how to figure out how much salad to use for 20 people. You take 4 ounces and you multiply it times 20 and you divide it by 16. And that'll tell you how much by the pound of salad that you need to use for 20 people. So if you're cooking for 20 people, I can't do it in my head, but you take 4 times 20, which would be what? And you divide that by 16, which would be what? Don't even go there. I don't know. Whatever that comes out to in pounds, whole numbers, if it comes out to be 0.5, it's a half a pound. If it comes out to be 0.75, it's 3/4 of a pound. If it comes out to 5.25, it's 5 1/4 pounds. See what I'm saying? So that little formula there will help you. Do what? 5 pounds. Our cameraman's smarter than the cook. So, no, this is a little more. This is a little more because I didn't know how many we're going to have here tonight and everything, so it's a little bit more on that. Anybody else?